Welcome everyone to my review of Archie Sonic the Hedgehog issue 14. And oh Tails, you have been a naughty boy, spray painting the cover with your name. Well, the first story does feature Tails in a prominent role, so let's leave him to do some scrubbing and see what bigger mess he gets into in the actual issue. Tails enters Rotor's greenhouse and sees a plant apparently attacking Sonic. Actually, this is a passion flower, and it's getting a little too close to Sonic, which makes me wonder, why does Rotor have such a plant in the first place? I don't even want to think about it. Sonic's watering plants for Rotor while he's out, and seeing as Tails wants to help, he dumps the assignment on him and speeds off. Tails actually thought Sonic was asking for help leading the freedom fighters. Oh, you naive two-tailed fox. Sally's the real leader. He gets to work watering the plants, which makes him hungry. He spots a spotted fruit hanging from a branch and decides to snack on it. Sonic and Rotor return to the greenhouse to find the plants have grown a lot. Tails explains he created a new type of plant food that did the job. Also, Tails' speech is a lot more logical. When he consumed that spotted fruit, his intelligence skyrocketed. Rotor then realizes which tree the fruit came from, one that oddly resembles a brain. He explains that this is the Tree of Wisdom. He found it years ago and tried to nurture it, but it only produced one fruit, the one that Tails ate. Suddenly, a wild Antoine arrives in a panic. He, along with Sally and Bunny, were patrolling when they were ambushed by Robotnik's giant shred bot. He obviously got away, but Sally and Bunny are trapped in the highweeds. By the way, the Shredbot is based on the Shredder, not that one, from the Sonic Side AM cartoon episode, Hooked on Sonic. Goes to show this series is starting to incorporate more elements from that cartoon. Anyway, it's time for Sonic to once again be the hero. However, Tails arrives immediately after and hijacks Sonic's heroics. He flies up to the Shredbot and taunts it enough so that he tricks it into destroying itself. With this success, Tails proclaims himself the new leader of the Freedom Fighters due to his superior intellect. My, aren't we getting cocky? Tails demonstrates more of this genius by building a vacuum bot to do all the Freedom Fighters' house chores. It's made out of a special metal that Robotnik cannot detect. He also used the remaining metal to fashion himself a badge of leadership. Sally tries to lay on the message of the story. Leadership is not just about intelligence. You also need courage and experience. Tails doesn't buy it. He's going to prove his superiority by, in his words, subduing their primary nemesis. Tails easily bypasses all of Robotnik's security measures and enters the villain's lair. That's when the effects of the fruit wear off. Without that superior intelligence, Tails is easily captured. Cue the arrival of the real hero. Earlier, Rotor studied the remains of the fruit, which he referred to as an apple, remember that, to discover its effects only last 24 hours. Sonic, using a dictionary to translate Tails' words, figured out where his buddy went to and followed. Thanks to some quick thinking, Sonic came up with a way to trick Robotnik. He says Tails was sent here to destroy Robotropolis using a megaton explosive. The explosive actually being the badge of leadership. Robotnik has it scanned to confirm this, but because the badge is made up of that metal Robotnik can't detect, it does not pick up on their sensors. Sonic threatens to smash the explosive on the ground, and in this game of chicken, Robotnik blinks and releases Tails before he and Snively run far, far away. Tails finally learns his lesson on leadership. Too bad Antoine gives him an hour-long lecture about it. To get even with Antoine, Tails decides to take a page out of Sonic's book. Using the badge of leadership, he tosses it at Antoine's feet. Believing it's a bomb, Antoine is dangling high in the air while everyone laughs at him. Before moving on to the actual second story, there's a 5-page story that's actually a contest. The idea is the writers are on vacation and Sonic is filling in for them. He wants you, the reader, to help him by filling in the empty word balloons and sound effects for the next 3 pages. The words have to fit inside the balloon, and they must match the action. Let's quickly look at these 3 pages. Sonic and Tails are out on a fishing trip while Robotnik and Crabmeat are in a submarine waiting for the right moment to attack. Tails snags a decent-sized catch, while Sonic's is a giant mechanical whale, aka Robotnik's submarine. Sonic rows at supersonic speed with the whale sub giving chase. They reach the beach, but with the whale sub moving very fast, it crashes. The 3-page story ends with Sonic proudly displaying his big mechanical catch. The contest story ends with Sonic telling the readers to send the 3 pages, or a copy of them, to the Archie comic offices. They'll choose the best entries, and the prize is a Sonic comic subscription. They'll also have their work published in a future issue. Archie Comics followed through with this contest because the top 3 entries were published in the pages of issue 23. The first place winner got a year subscription, an original page from Sonic 21, original art by Dave Manik, and an early autographed copy of issue 25. The second place winner got the subscription, original art from issue 22, and the autographed issue 25, and finally the third place winner got the subscription and issue 25. And considering the third place person completely redrew the story before mailing it in, that's not bad. Sonic did say copies of the story were allowed. If you want to pause the video and read the stories, feel free to. I'm just amazed Archie was able to successfully pull this off back in the day. Our final story begins with Robotnik playing with toy versions of the Freedom Fighters, giving him an idea in the process. Snively and Crabmeat arrive and totally didn't see Robotnik playing with his dolls again. He lays out the plan, which is basically divide and conquer. To do this, he builds a fake mall outside of the forest, attracting the attention of Sally and Bunny. Their curiosity gets the better of them, and as soon as they enter, they fall through the trapdoor into Robotnik's lair. He plans to use them as bait to lure Sonic to him, but the girls will have none of that. They take out all of the SWAT bots in the room. Then they corner Robotnik, Snively, and Crabmeat, tie them up, and permanently close their mall. The story ends with the girls returning to Knothole and poking fun at Sonic for wanting to go shopping for video games. What's wrong with that? I'll go ahead and discuss the second story first. It can be summed up in 2 words: girl power. I think that's the idea because the execution is mediocre. Since the story was co-written by Ken Penders, I'm not surprised. The characters felt off to me. Now Robotnik had a solid plan of divide and conquer, but the way he did it, building a mall to lure in the girls as bait, just no. It may seem like a goofy era plot, but at least in those past outings, the comic embraced the silliness. In this case, I think there's an unhealthy mixture of goofiness and sincerity going on. A clash of different tones in this case. And I'll explain why in a moment. He singled out Sally and Bunny because he perceived them as weak, only for them to prove him wrong. To me, it doesn't feel earned. Plus, Robotnik should have known that one of them, Bunny, is definitely not weak. She demonstrated this on Robotnik himself back in issue 9. This story is a representation of a disconnect between the various writers of the series. While continuity isn't as strong as it will be later on, at the very least, the different writers should be aware of how each of them writes certain characters. Some unfortunately don't, and it will get worse in the future. Sally and Bunny don't make it out of this story unscathed. They fall for the mall trap without considering the possibility that Robotnik was involved. Then they take care of all the SWAT bots in the room before tying up the villain and his lackeys. I'll give Bunny a slight pass due to her cybernetic nature. But Sally? Unless she's been working out, she should not be flipping or kicking SWAT bots like it was nothing. Maybe these SWAT bots were cheaply made or something. I could see Robotnik doing this sort of thing. I'm giving this story a 3. Best to skip this one. The reason I don't score this lower is Art Mahoney's pencil work, though I do have to question some of it since for some reason, Art decided to give Crabmeat a mouth. This looks wrong. The title Tails' Taste of Power has 2 meanings. First, there's Tails literally tasting power by eating fruit from the Tree of Wisdom. 'Cause you know, knowledge is power. Also, the fruit being an apple, which by the way is the most freaky looking apple I've ever seen. Is this supposed to be a biblical reference? You know, the Garden of Eden, eating an apple, and gaining forbidden knowledge? Now for the second meaning of the title. Because of his increased intelligence, as well as his victory over the Shredbot, Tails placed himself in charge of the Freedom Fighters. As Sally explained earlier, leadership is a combination of intelligence, courage, and most important of all, experience. Tails lacked number 3. For a time, he was smarter than everyone, and it also made him braver, but he's still a kid. Young people often have this belief that they're invulnerable. Combine that with the arrogance of a superior intellect, Tails became a danger not only to himself, but his fellow freedom fighters. If he had wisdom, which comes from experience, he might have wondered how long the effects of the fruit would last. And that's where Rotor has him beat. Heck, even Sonic has him beat in terms of experience. He relied on some quick thinking to save Tails by using something that was set up earlier against Robotnik. I have to say, this is a much better way to defeat Robotnik compared to Story 2. Sheer trickery. And the outcome is a little more believable. Plus, Robotnik had the perfect hostage with regular, normal Tails. And yeah, the story is doing the whole, the character's magical advantage, suddenly wearing off at the wrong moment cliche. The story gets a 6. Better than Story 2, but it loses points due to Tails' arrogance being grating to me, which I think is the point. While Tails may no longer possess super intelligence, I have a feeling the effects of the fruit may linger. In a few years, in universe, he'll be able to do things that can rival Robotnik, helped by being under Rotor's wing, and going on more adventures with the Freedom Fighters, as well as some solo outings. In other words, gaining experience. Compare the faulty vacuum bot built in this issue to the efficient T-Pup down the line. I would say the lingering effects of the fruit might make Tails a quick learner. You could argue that Tails already had experience prior to eating the spotted apple, like for instance stopping Pseudo-Sonic in issue 9, and meeting Knuckles along with Sonic in the last issue. In-universe, it never hurts to have more experience, and out of universe, those stories were written by different writers, while this one was written by Angelo. Again, I wish the writers would have collaborated with one another. Of course, the real reason Comic Tails would get smarter over time is to line him up with his game counterpart, who was already a kid genius when he debuted in Sonic 2. Now I wonder if the story was mocking that fact. Anyway, I'll see you next time when we take a look at issue 15. Well, it seems Rotor's encounter with the vacuum bot must really suck. You may now throw tomatoes right at me, folks.